All right, so the first word today is gametic isolation. And the gametic isolation is the sperm is put in, but it does not have the ability to go in the egg to fertilize it. So the sperm is put in, but it doesn't have the ability to go into the egg and fertilize it. That is gametic isolation. You can also say the gametes, which is the sperm and the egg, come into contact, but no fertilization takes place. All right, so the next one is reduce hybrid viability. Reduce hybrid viability. So that's when a baby forms, but it dies either before it is born or shortly after. So the baby forms, but it dies either before it is born or shortly after. You could also say it refers to the lower potential to the survival of an organism whose parents have incompatible genetics, mostly because these parents mated being different species. So even though they're different species, they still mated, but their genes are incompatible. So then that means the baby is not gonna survive either before it's born, it'll be like stillborn, or it'll die shortly after birth. That is reduce hybrid viability. All right, so the next one is behavioral isolation. And examples of behavioral isolation, you're gonna find like the blue-footed boobies, and they want to see the mate with that blue foot, you know? So basically it's either the male acts or looks different than what the female finds attractive. So behavioral isolation, either the male acts or looks different than what the female will find attractive. You could also say when two populations of the same species develop some different behavior, typically in mating rituals. So again, when two populations of the same species develop some sort of different behavior, or it could be a look too, typically in mating rituals. So you don't look good, I don't want to be with you, I'm not going to make babies with you. That would be behavioral isolation. Or you could say you act silly, I don't want to be with you, you know, so we're not going to make babies. That would be behavioral isolation. All right, so now habitat isolation. Habitat isolation is they live in the same area, but one wants to be up in the trees and the other one wants to be in the ground or in the water. So they're in the same area, except they just like to live in different places. Like a garter snake, there's some that want to be in the water, the other ones don't want to be in the water, so they end up not mating with each other because they want to be in different places. You could also say for habitat isolation, preferences lower the probability of mating between individuals associated with different habitats. All right, so you're going to be up in the trees and I'm going to be down on the ground. We probably won't see each other, so we won't make babies. That would be called habitat isolation. All right, so the next word is temporal isolation. Temporal isolation is they want to sexually reproduce at different times of the day or different times of the year. You can also say populations may mate or flower at different seasons or different times of the day. So one wants to make babies in the daytime, one wants to make babies at night, or one wants to throw out the pollen at one time of the year, say May. The other one wants to do it in October. So you're not going to be able to make babies or make any seeds. That would be called temporal isolation, different times. All right, so the next one is mechanical isolation. Usually teenagers find this one funny. Mechanical isolation is copulation is often impossible between two animal species because of incompatible shape and size of the genitalia. In other words, they cannot have intercourse because the animal's penis does not fit or is facing in a different direction, or maybe just the male cannot even hang on. Okay? In plants, this also happens. The pollinator is not compatible in size to be able to get the pollen delivered to the plant. So it happens in plants too, because remember the pollinator, he's the one that delivers the pollen. So if he's not the right size, it's not going to work. All right, so hybrid sterility. So what hybrid sterility is, hybrid zygotes, remember zygotes is a fertilized egg, sometimes develop into adults. All right, so it'll be born, it'll live to adulthood and everything, like a mule. A mule is a hybrid between a female horse and a male donkey. But the adults fail to develop functional gametes. Remember, gametes are your sperm and your egg, and they are sterile. So you could put a female horse and a male donkey together, and you're going to get a mule, but that mule cannot make babies with other mules. So that's called hybrid sterility. You haven't made a new species, because in order for it to be a species, it has to be able to reproduce with each other. So again, hybrid sterility. The baby will be born. He can grow to be an adult, but he will not be able to have babies. All right, that's called hybrid sterility. All right, so now the last word is geographic isolation. Geographic isolation is when populations are unable to mate because of a physical barrier like distance, a river, a canyon, oceans, mountains, etc. So that's geographic isolation. There's something physically separating you from what would be a potential mate.